This is Akbar and his journey and his views on Salah.
This little presentation is not meant to give answers because I'm not an expert in the excellent way. It came about because Farouk was online and I was online at the same time. Do you know about the conference taking place? And he asked me, it's going to be on Salat, do you want to talk about it? And I went, yeah, okay. And not realising I was letting myself in for it. So I found myself a bit perplexed because there's so many good speakers here who've given quite detailed analysis of what Salat is and what I'm about to say is going to seem quite poor in some respects, but I'll kick off anyway. My journey through Salat started when I was a child, like most people. Someone earlier was asking about why do we do it. I remember, as a kid, when my father washed the car, Dad's washing the car, I was going to wash the car with him. Or when he was painting the staircase, grab a brush and paint with him. And Mum's praying, go and pray with her. And so that's where I come from. We do what we see around us. So we follow what our parents do in front of us and what they teach us. So I started to learn how to pray from my mother. It was quite difficult because I don't know any Arabic. My background is that I actually come from Mauritius. And having moved from that country to this country, I missed all the teachings that go on to the madrasa. I didn't attend those, not until I was much older. And so my mum got out her little book and started teaching me the surahs. And diligently, I went along and read and tried to remember and tried to memorize and do it. And then she had a brain drain. Now, if she turned this into a business, we'd be well off today. Basically, she got a cassette recorder, popped a tape in, and recited the surahs. I said, right, go and learn it. And that's what I did, and that's how I learned my surahs, and that's how I learned how to pray. And that was really from 12, 13. So it's quite, it's not, the majority of people I know would suspect from Jewish background have been going to madrasa from age 5 onwards. So I didn't really get to madrasa until 14, 15. And from that point onwards, I learned how to pray. I learned all the extras. I didn't really understand why we do the extras, because if this is followed, why do we need to do this? Finish this bit, then it's finished, isn't it? No, we've got to do this, this, and this. Okay, Mum, I'll do that. And I went on and on and on. And this continued really up until 1992. And what happened then is that I met a friend with my wife who was also in the questioning process. And we started discussing Salat and Hadith and things of that nature. And what he had was a copy of Yusuf Ali's translation in a Word document. I thought, oh, I have that. So I had it, and I popped off home, and I had FileMaker Pro, which is a flat file database, and I imported all the verses into the database. Right, crack fingers. Let's see what the book really does say. And I had a Mac Plus. That's what I used. That's, you were talking about Apple, no evangelists here. So I imported this file into that, and during summer 91, up until winter and winter 92, my friend and I sort of went back and forth, and he kept asking me, and I kept popping off to the computer. And eventually, I dropped a huge list of all the verses to do with prayer. And I then sat down, and as you have done, took all the verses, and I drew up, and I knew there were 5 times a year that you pray. And I looked and I said, that goes there, that goes there. And I put it all together and said, right, there's my proof. These are the times of when you pray. The problem was, it didn't solve my ultimate problem, which is when you go to either ends of the pole of the earth, you cannot pray because you have daylight. night time, which exceeds 4 months of the year. And that's a problem for me. Because when I do this, Allah's law takes precedence. This law is universal. And therefore the law of Salat, for me, is universal. So when I go to the North and South Pole, I can't pray there, nor can I fast there. And in fact, one summer, not too long after, it was 93 or 94.
Don't tell me you're in the North Pole.
No, I only got as far as Scotland. But it was enough to show me something very strange. Because living in London, the latest time of sunset is about 9:30. When I got to Scotland that summer, it was 11 at night. You know. And of course, you see the timetables for Ramadan every year and think, these poor Scots. But you don't really realise that until you get there. And so for me, although I'd done the research, and this was before there was an internet, because the internet hadn't really come out then, so I was basically working off that translation and a database and put this together. But I had this problem that I could neither pray at the prescribed times, nor could I fast at these extremes. So my proof, so to speak, yes, it was there, and I sort of did what most good Sunni Muslims do. I stuck my head in the sand and committed to pray 5 times a day, and did the extras. Though at that point, I decided that the extras really weren't no good at all, and that the farad is what counted, and that's what I should do. And of course, my mum noticed this and started having words with me. But that's a different story. My understanding, as I progressed, I started to make a distinction between Salat and Dua. How did that come about? It came about a few years ago, actually, when my mom she'd asked me to put together for her 40 Rabbana, because she wanted the Arabic and the transliteration. She got a photocopy, and it was a really bad photocopy. And so I decided, well, I'll do a nice one for her, copy and paste verses and so on and forth. And as I was doing this, I was also still trying to get through and understand what Salat is and still doing the normal prayers.
Sorry.
My purpose in putting the 40 Rabbana together was that I would use this for myself because I wanted to learn them. And then I realised what was going on. That Allah was teaching us in this book that when people pray, these are the sorts of things that they say to you. And your job is not to just recite and repeat what they have said, but for you to take lessons from what they have said, and for you to ask of yourself what you need from Him. Because Allah does say, He listens to those who make dua, and usually in turn listen to what He has to say. So I took that, and so my perspective of Salat then changed to Salat and dua. And that for me was pretty much a turn. My understanding of Salat now is that it means the establishment of structures in society which leads to good works as defined by the Quran, which is something completely different. And I take that from verse 2177. It is not righteousness that you turn your faces towards east and west, but it is righteous to believe in Allah, the last day, and the angels and the book and the messengers, which is the fundamental of faith. And it goes on. To spend of your substance out of love for Him, for your kin, for orphans, for the needy, for the wayfarer, for those who ask, and for the ransom of slaves. To be steadfast in salah and practice, it says regular charity, I'm not sure whether it's zakat or sadaqah. To fulfill the contracts which you have made, to be firm and patient in pain and adversity, and to not be panic. Such are the people of truth, those who have taqwa. So for me, this is what Salah means, to establish these, because this is what Allah defines as what is righteous to do. And I take that back to verse 2-3, where it says, can you just 2-3 for me, please? Sorry.
Those who believe in the unseen, they continuously establish salah, and from what Allah has provided them, they spread salah.
Yes? So I connect the two to establish the salah with what you were saying earlier about the razak that you're given, to put the two together. So out of the razak, the provisions which Allah has given us, we take that and establish the salat. The salat is what I take from 2172b, that it is our responsibility and duty to help and to involve in the establishment of making sure that these categories of people are well taken care of in society. So it's a more of a social, economic understanding of Salah rather than just a ritual understanding of Salah. Now you may understand where on earth you get social structure from Salah. You've got horses going on here. Yeah? I'd found Project Root this back in 2009, and one through the meanings are thinking about something as end result, conceal or conceive something in the mind, a structure of clay or any structure signifying a habitation or an abode or dwelling. And from that, I understood that when Allah said in Quran 2:1-7, and remember Ibrahim and Ishmael raised the foundations of the house, Baytullah, Bayat means building. But if I ask you this question, what does the word church mean? Anyone?
Place of worship.
Place of worship, yeah. But the word church means body of people. It doesn't mean a structure, as in a physical structure. So I'm thinking to myself, yeah, it's not a physical building you go to. This is something which you build in society.
It's almost like the ummah.
Yes, that concept.
The early Christian ummah would be the church.
Yes, yeah. So what I'm saying is that we go back to slightly how language evolves and its meaning evolves and things like that. If you look at sort of the original meanings of the word, it is simply a structure. So when Ibrahim and Ishmael raised the structure, they put together a social structure, an economic structure, which helped the people, and then those that came afterwards developed and improved it.
Institutions.
So institutions, yes. So that's where I get the word social and economic from, because it is the word structure. It could mean a tent, it could mean a building, but it means structure. Structure is anything that you put form to. So that's my understanding. So Ibrahim and Ishmael built a social structure in society which was just and balanced, and which fulfilled the definition of being righteousness, which is 2177. Adherence to the social structure is paramount because without it, society breaks down into tribalism, nationalism, and racism. And those things come to the front and divide the people and cause killings and wars and things of that nature. Now, I know you're right to ask me about times of Salat, because I have been through this for the 5, 3, 52 to none. I don't have an answer because this is my journey, and this is where I am at this moment in my journey. When I find an apparent contradiction in the book, I know there's a fault with my reasoning, because I believe, and it is my belief, that there is no error in the book. Because Allah says to me, do they not consider the Quran with care? Had it been from other than Allah, they would surely have found therein much discrepancy, which is chapter 4, verse 82. Like it or not, the current form of Salah, which has been taught to us by fathers and mothers, my mother, isn't, I don't think, there is something wrong with it, because Allah says very clearly, and again, others have already mentioned this in the today. When it said to them, follow what Allah has revealed, they say, no, we shall follow the ways of our fathers. It doesn't say our forefathers. It says my immediate father. That is my understanding. I could be wrong, but it means my father. But even though their fathers were void of wisdom and guidance, when it said to them, 594, come to what Allah has revealed, come to the messenger, and say, enough for us are the ways we found our fathers following. What, even though their fathers were void of knowledge and guidance. Again, those who give partners to Allah will say, if Allah had wished, we should not have been partners to Him, nor would our fathers. Nor should we have any taboos. So did their ancestors argue falsely until they tasted our wrath. Say, how do you serve the knowledge? You so produce it before us. You follow nothing but conjecture, and you do nothing but lie. So, am I afraid of getting this wrong? No, I'm not afraid of getting this wrong. I'm afraid of not making the effort to understand. Because if I don't make the effort, then I said, well, I find Jamal had given a good explanation, and that was solid for me. When I stand before Allah on the Day of Judgment, it's me alone. It's my reasoning that I have to, it's my set of proofs that I have to present. So unless I make the efforts to understand, I've got a leg standing. Now, Allah is not a vengeful God. This is the mess of Hadith and Christianity. So I always take whatever I do with what Farouk said earlier about Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, how you start everything with that. And for me, how can the most gracious and the most merciful, as a creator, ask me to do things which I do not understand? And yet he says his book is clear. So there is fault with my reasoning, with my understanding. And my journey in Salat is ongoing, never ending. But what I have faith in is that by studying and reading the book and opening myself up to the book, I will understand. Because Allah says, and I don't have the verse to point to right now, is that He is the teacher of the book. And only He can teach me what I want to know. Yes, we can sit together and we can, as to share notes, yes? But at the end of the day, it's our individuality, our individual judgments that is of paramount importance. And I have to be able to put hand on heart and say, I've tried my very best to come to understanding of Salat. And in my understanding of Salat at the moment, it means to fulfill 2177, to establish socio-economic situations where society is taken care of. The normal ritualized form, I have had my moments of tears when prostrating. I have changed my not methodology, because that's stand back prostrating, but what I say and how I say within that, and I've had moments of revelation. Okay, so I don't say it's not something to be done, but I don't see that structure within there, because when I did my original research and put the verses together, I had a clear image in my mind that there are 5 prayers a day, and I was going to go off and find those verses and prove it. And that's what I did. Okay, that's what I did. But the other thing is that, and I mentioned for further clarification, is when you look at the details of Salat, as we do it, we don't find those details in there. And back in '86,
Can we just be finishing up
I'm
now
just
and then we'll go
finishing
to
up,
the question and answers? Thank you.
I bought a set of hadiths, Bukhari, 9 volumes. The first thing I went for was the chapter on Salat. I'm going to find this in here. I read it through, didn't find anything. Well, I found, but it wasn't in the comprehensive way that we're taught. So I thought, okay, I'll start from volume 1, I went through, didn't find it. Got 7 hadith of Muslim, 4 volume, read all of that. Didn't find it in there. I went after a different set of hadith, looked for that, didn't find that. So the Salat that we do doesn't come from the Quran.
Thanks, you just saved me a lot of time.
Great to be of help.
Right.
Yes, balance, temporal straight is all there, and yes, I do those things, but the actual methodology is outside of the book.
Right, thank you very much for that, Akbar. Very good. Let's go on to the question and answer session for Akbar.
There was something quite interesting you mentioned there, because I instantly thought of my son. I consider myself as a Quranist Muslim on the path, struggling away to try and get an understanding and performing Salat the way I do. For example, I mean, my son occasionally joins me in the night now, next to me and stuff like that, you know, when I'm praying and stuff. So he watches. That he currently goes to, he's learning Arabic and Quran right now, to a Sunni madrasa. he occasionally says to me, "Daddy, have you just finished? Is that it?" And it's like, okay, that was over rather quickly, and okay, so are you reading Quran as well? Yeah, okay, until you're 5. But I'm just thinking, again, I mean, when we talk about not following your father, and then, for example, he obviously has to go on exactly the same jihad, exactly the same struggle for himself to actually have that understanding as an individual. It's kind of like, well, I want to get him. I want to save him a bit of time. I want to, rather than read through the 9 volumes just for one, that stuff. But it is kind of, I don't know.
It's a different approach to parenting, isn't it, being a Quranist? Because rather than being threatened by your children going on this path of discovery, you're actually gently pushing them. Please discover it for yourself. Don't blame me on the day of judgment. But it's
taking that point, I sat my kids down and said exactly that to them.
yeah.
This is where I am now. This is what I understand. But you're not to follow me. No, this is your journey. You've got to find it for yourself. You can't blame me for what you do. So I remember when they were little, and I had my son, I'd stick him next to me, and he'd follow me, and 1 years old, 2 years, whatever. And I was happy with that. But I made it, once I got this understanding back in '92, I made a deliberate decision not to teach them this particular way, and to let them understand and come to their own understanding. Because we're all individually accountable. Yes, teach them the Quran and share with them my understanding, but at the end of the day, it is their individual responsibility, our individual responsibility. We are accountable for what we do. Sharing knowledge is well and good.
That reminds me of another
Implementation
thing.
is you're accountable for.
Another thing, like when you think about why would we even want to follow our fathers or parents or culture or whatever? Inherent in everybody is a social need. We are social animals. We have a social need to connect. That is clear. We have that need. And in the absence of Allah's guidance, we are going to muddle along and try to find a way to connect socially, because that's how we were programmed biologically. And the interesting thing to me is if you recognize that there is this inherent, I feel, I'm sure you all feel as well, nobody wants to be sort of by themselves and kind of like tucked away, that this need is there. You will fulfill this need for connection to the divine and to others. But if you follow the connection according to the guidelines of Quran, it's a healthier, more positive journey for you. If you don't, you'll still have these burning kind of needs to do things, and you'll muddle along and try to find your way in the darkness. But to me, it's like I see it as a complete circle. We're born, we get our akal, we get our development, our thinking faculty develop, our physical sort of body develops, we mature, and if we follow the guidelines of Quran, we can have our human development in the most positive, healthy way, and then the society that we will form together will be as healthy and as functional as possible. If we don't, it's kind of no skin off anybody's nose, but we're missing out, and the whole is missing out. So that's kind of like how I sort of see what you were saying fit together. With regards to children, that they want this, they have this need, to peer pressure, what people call peer pressure. What is that? You want to fit in and connect with your group.
And for me, it's all about society.
Yeah.
Without a just and balanced society, then the weak get oppressed. And Allah doesn't want that. He's given us
practically every story of every messenger, it seems like they are being a social reformer of their time,
Yes.
a religious reformer of their time.
Well, I take issue with the word religion because religion for me means something which is organised. Something which is organised in such a way that
Restrictive.
it's not only restrictive, but it's a power structure, which means the man at the top gets to dictate and tell you what to do. And Muslims have a go at Christians and Jews for their priests and rabbis, but they don't have a go at the imams, which is a contradiction because they have the same power structure in place. When the imam says you do this, you do it. Nobody argues against the imam, and yet it's exactly the same thing when a priest or a vicar or a rabbi tells their congregation what to do. So there is no organised religion in the sense, well there is now, because Salat as it is conducted is organised religion. It is a way to control the people and stop them from thinking. You do this, you come along and pray, shut up, follow.
Yeah.
And it's true.
It's
When I wanted to,
interesting.
when I stand in the salah, when I was a kid, you know, what do I say? Why do I say what he's saying, or do I stand silently? Maybe I've got an answer for that. Yeah. So
You know-
why am I standing behind this man,
Yeah.
being quiet?
Well, you know,